Okay, and we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our Zoom participants, and good afternoon to our FB Live viewers. How are you today? Hope you're all well and good. So, welcome to another e learning session powered by Ariva Academy. Our topic for today is transform your organization for the post pandemic. Beyond SWOT analysis, how can your teams jumpstart? My name is Irish Malonda Samson. I'm your host, and joining me is my co host and moderator, Mr. Howell Mabalot. Hello, sir.
Hello, Miss Irish, our dear president. What an honor to once again do this with you today.
Okay. Anyways, great presentation yesterday, sir.
Ay, salam.
Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So before we later you will be introducing our speaker, but before that, please allow me to greet our out of the country participants. They are from India, New Delhi, India, Surat, India, Surabaya, Indonesia, Malacca, Malaysia. Thank you for joining us today. Lalitpur, Nepal, Karachi, Pakistan, Adams Town, Pitcairn Island, Singapore, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and LA, United States. So thank you for joining us today. And of course, in order for us to have a smooth flow of our e-learning session, here are some few reminders and house rules. So for those of you who are the first time joining us, viewing us in our webinar, please type in hi in the chat box now. Let me see who are first timers here. Hi, Miss Julian. Okay. Sir Eduardo, good afternoon. Gina Lynn Areta. Hello, good afternoon, guys. So, okay. Nancil Bartolini, good afternoon, ma'am. Miss Joanne, welcome to our e-learning session. Sir Erwin, of course, yeah. And we would like to know if you can hear us loud and clear and we are audible. So please use the following codes. 111 to show if you can hear us loud and clear. Okay. 222 means you can't hear us. 2121 means no, our sound is breaking or there's a log. And question mark if you don't understand anything. So far, Sir Ronald, loud and clear. Jesse, Samuel, George, loud and clear. Thank you. Miss Josephine, good afternoon. Miss Cecil Soberano, loud and clear. Okay. Moving on, we will be having a quick break later after the presentation of our guest speaker and before we move on to question and answer. Participants' microphones will be temporarily disabled by the administrator during discussion to avoid interruptions. Questions will be entertained after each topic of the session. For questions and clarifications during the provided time after each topic, please click the raise hand button for the administrator to enable the microphone for live questions. Type in your questions at the Q&A box. One question at a time will be entertained. For comments and feedback, please scan this QR code. This will be directed to our feedback form. Please send us your comments, suggestions, topics to discuss for us to improve our future e-learning sessions. Okay, and now to discuss transform your organization for the post-pandemic. Beyond SWOT analysis, how can your teams jumpstart? Okay, Sir Howell, please do the honors in introducing our guest speaker today.
Thank you so much, Miss Irish. And let me wear these pair of eyeglasses to read the fine print. Ang galing kasi ng speaker natin today. So, our resource speaker today is recognized as a leading thought leader, consultant, and trainer in the field of strategic business management in the Philippines and around the Asian region. With over 30 years of experience, he is the first Filipino who have been awarded the Certified Sales Professional distinction by the Sales and Marketing Institute of Australia and New Zealand. Recently, he was also accredited as the first Filipino trainer facilitator to the prestigious European Training and Competency Center to handle middle and high-level management and leadership courses to cross-cultural audiences. He has been acknowledged as the maverick and transformational trainer, facilitator, speaker, professor, and consultant rolled into one. Everyone, let's all give a hand for the partner speaker and chief marketing strategist of Ariva Academy, Sir Ricky De Vera.
Hello, hi, good afternoon to everyone. Howell, good afternoon. You're
Good
looking
af-
great as always.
You look great as well, birthday boy, Sir Ricky. Ayan.
Yeah, may hangover pa.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations on your
Okay,
webinar
yes,
yesterday morning and on another day given to you by God.
right. Yeah, I felt that's a different way to celebrate my birthday, doing a webinar, and it's really different, when you're preparing that is something close to your heart, like your birthday. Talagang
Mm-hmm.
natataranta ka. You get confused, you get rattled. You want to get it over with. And thank you for greeting me as well, Howell, Irish, and everybody out there as well. Yeah, we have a good afternoon session for today. Yes, and can I take on
Yes,
Howell for
sir.
the meantime
Take
and
take the center
lead
stage.
everybody
The
else?
limelight is on you. We're willing, more than willing, and more than excited to listen to you, Sir Ricky.
So I want to first of all welcome everyone from the Philippines all over, and as well as from all over the globe. I mean, the Asian region. I've heard we've got from uh, East Asia all the way up to Southeast Asia, and even in the United States. And I feel that is very important because what we are going to be discussing for this afternoon, what I will be sharing is a global phenomena. It's not localized, it's a global phenomena. And for those of you who are not familiar with my background, although of course Howell has shared it already, let me just give a quick snippet so that as I bring you to my journey map, people, the audience would be better appreciating why is Professor De Vera or Mr. De Vera or Ricky talking about it. Okay, so I'd like to I'd like to therefore give everybody an appreciation because what will happen, okay, what will happen is this. Okay. My background is, if I were to call it, it's a mix, it's a hodgepodge. But I was very clear that what I wanted in life was to constantly be transforming. And that's why if for those of you who are not familiar with me, let me just quickly share, then I'll go on with my session. I have an MBA and advanced studies on strategy from Japan. Okay? And for me, that's interesting because I felt the Japanese culture would be very interesting to understand how they strategize. I'm also a consultant in Singapore. I got my certification there, so strategy for business. And then to hone it up, I continue to be a professor. So that means to say, I continue to be honed up on the dynamics, on the literature, on business models, and then I I volunteered to be a book reviewer for McGraw-Hill Publications. And for those of you who are familiar with them, they have a lot of titles every month. So I take a look at those titles, I review them, and I identify which one would be more uh, relevant to a particular country, particularly like in the Philippines, which one would be of interest. And I even do book reviews of books as well. So to broaden my perspective. And then I realized as well that very important to understand people because it's the productivity of people. So I became a specialist. I moved to also add on people productivity and then OD, organizational alignment. Don't worry, I'm still okay. Some people are saying, "Ang dami mong ginagawa," but if you're focused, I feel that's very important. And then my life has been on sales. Uh, and for me, sales is really about promoting oneself. And then a lot of uh, a lot of my audiences were saying, can we know more about your thoughts. So I became a contributor to our leading newspapers, both in the Philippines and in the Asia Pacific as well. And then I was asked if I could join a working committee on strategic business negotiation for the for trade. So yeah, I said, why not? Then what is also interesting is, well, um, 30 years of being there and 21,550 days of being alive from the time as I was born, I went up to the level of mentoring, mentoring executives, mentoring COOs. I'd like to make it clear, COOs are children of owners. And that's very interesting because what I've noticed in a number of engagement is the children of owner are being forced to run the business. If you notice, mine is no. We got to mentor the children of the owners, and I'm happy because I have success stories of those as well. And then I got an invitation from companies in Europe. Can you also, because there's a lot of Filipino and Asians working in Europe, so sure, I was certified to be an instructor on managing multicultural teams, very challenging. So Europeans managing them and Asians managing Europeans. That's very interesting as well. And then I do economic briefing, uh, and I feel that's also very important. What's happening in the global economy? Then that missing link, I had to fill it up. I took in further studies and became a behavioral psychologist, and I do counseling as well. I do more of counseling and psychology, behavioral psychology, psychology about how people are in an environment. And I also got certified under certain programs on situational leadership. This, some of you probably are aware of that. So I'd like to call myself multifaceted. Some people might say ang gulo, sa akin no, multifaceted. You got to bring yourself. Anyway, so given this, I am sharing it because as I now walk you through, there's going to be a diversity. Let me use that word. Diversity is where I propagate. Diversity. And diversity means to say, if we take a look at things, we cannot look at it from one angle. We got to look at it from different angles. So this is a short session, but I'd like to share this to people who are listening. You don't have to be the owner. You could be the supervisor. You don't have to be the supervisor. You could be an employee. You could be a staff. But I guess at this point in time, everyone is seriously concerned about how their employment, how their business will move forward. Okay, so let me therefore bring you in with that background as well. Okay, the topics I will be sharing would be 6 points. So I'd like to emphasize to everyone, don't take a liquidity break for the meantime. You might miss out. These topics are interrelated. Okay, I'll start with internalizing the planning discipline and then move towards the impact of the COVID-19 to business and company, the plans of organizations. And then where does this lead a business therefore? And I'd like to mention, when I talk about business here, it could be where is a department headed for in a business? Where is a team which is in a department headed for in a business? Okay, so for team leaders out there, you got to listen because this also will impact you. Okay. And then there are so many planning models that you can use actually, and I appreciate that. The question is which one would be more appropriate? That's a word that I like also people to please do remember. There is no right or wrong in today's dynamic situation. It's very disruptive. There is no right or wrong. For me, there is an appropriate model. So that's the terminology that I use. Disruptive, appropriate, and then what is a business sustainability model? This is interesting since, let's put it this way, I'm a wide reader. I do book reviews. I talk to a number of consultants, advisors, mentors, business leaders as well. Uh, I have created a business sustainability model. So this is a conglomeration of different ideas, models put together. So I have to be honest about it. What I will share, particularly the business sustainability model, is not in Google. It's not on. That's why it's good you're tuning in to this session that we are giving, me and supported by Howell as my moderator and Ariva, because I felt we want to share something you don't see, and you're gonna hear it first, and that's very important. And then moving forward. Okay, so I have a few questions I'd like to ask everyone who is now listening. Okay? And if there are others in your team who are not, why not give them a, connect with them now and say, you better listen because malalim ito. This is something that is very, very important for everyone. Okay. So questions I'd like to ask relative to internal planning discipline, or what is called practice. I've noticed, I've realized, and I'm asking now people out there, most companies, this is my sense, plan to hit their targets. That means to say every year targets are given, and that means to say every year targets have a tendency to increase. So ask yourself, is this something that is you can relate to? You can relate to. And what is even interesting is all departments are given targets. Can you relate to that? Next question I'm going to ask is this. My sense is that most companies plan early so that they can create the budget. And I find, again, my terminology here is I sense this because as a behavioral psychologist and a consultant, I cannot rely on one sense, like I see it. No, I use the word sense, meaning to say my 5 faculties are all aligning now. So I sense that most companies, they plan like, okay, for next year, let's plan this September, let's plan this October. And when I ask them, why are you planning early? Their usual answer is, para sir, ma-approve na yung plan, para ma-approve na rin yung budget. So for me, that's very interesting. So you're planning early to have your budget approved. Very interesting. Very interesting. My third question to people who are listening. Most companies rely on data and statistics when they plan. Okay? Which means to say, what did we do last year? Okay, what are the numbers that we were able to perform? And then what is also interesting, I sense, is that a number of companies would plan on the increment, not the totality. So when they say, okay, we're going to grow by 20%, oh, let's plan on that 20% growth. And again, that's my sense, most companies. This fifth question for me is really so interesting. Many of those who plan will not necessarily be the one to implement. So if you can relate to that, okay, and I've sensed this, I've been engaged in a lot of consulting on strategy, been asked to come in and facilitate. I notice most people who are in the planning session are the executives, the management. Then I ask, where's your next in line? Ah, wala, may ginagawa pa. So, okay, fine. Who's going to implement this? Sila, them. Who's planning? Kami. So we plan, they implement. Okay. Now let me again ask as a reflection, and to all of you there, is your answer, and let's do a quick poll here, okay? Is your answer to most of my questions here a yes or a no? That's a simple, a yes or a no. So, Howell, if you can help me out here, I will not remove the slides, but maybe if in the next 5 seconds or 10 seconds, we can ask our participants if they can put in their company, and then is it a yes? Yes means to say most of the things you are now presenting to us, we're doing that. No
Yes.
is not all. Okay, please,
Okay.
Howell.
Sir, we're being flooded with a lot of yeses.
Okay,
Oh, a
wow.
lot of yeses.
So
7,
we
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So
okay.
there's no one, there's not a no, not a single no. Everyone agrees with you.
Wonderful. I call that a tsunami.
Tsunami, oo.
Na tsunami man tayo, di ba?
Of
Para
yes.
sunod-sunod yan. Yeah, okay.
Mm-mm.
And I appreciate that, actually. I appreciate that. I mean, uh, I have to be very sensitive on sharing it. And I appreciate that we're getting responses, number one. And I will respect if the answers is yes or the answers is no. That's also one thing I realize when you're a consultant. You cannot play favorite. So yes, okay, no, marami, no? And I'd like to now move on to this one. My good friends, audiences, wherever you are. Okay. If your answer to many of this is yes, I'd like to say congratulations. Congratulations, because you have now come into a realization that your business should have a structure. And I call that a core business structure. And what is that business structure? We have to have targets. We have to have plans. We have got to actually appreciate as well. Kasi may budget tayong aaprubahan, etc., etc. So you got a core business structure. That's wonderful. And I'll tell you, many of us is answering yes because this is what has actually happened. Okay. Now, I'm gonna move on a bigger picture. Whatever you are doing, if it is working, please remember this. Because, number one, the next level that surrounds your business structure is also working in harmony. What do I mean by that? Okay, try to think about it. Everyone, anyone there in any business, product or service. For you to run your business, you got to have markets. That's my primary market out there. And as long as I've got primary market, I'm happy. You're happy. But you also know that your primary markets, some of them might have customers. And as long as the customers of your primary market are happy, so you're happy. Everything's okay. And then you also ask yourself the question, do I have suppliers? And who are the suppliers of my suppliers? And as long as the suppliers of your suppliers can supply, everybody's happy. And then, of course, once in a while, if I notice Howell is smiling, I hope that's a smiling of, yeah, you're right. And as long
It
as you,
is, yeah.
yeah, as long as you have uh, fallback suppliers, just in case your existing suppliers does not supply, you're fine, correct? So I put those four, and this is a simple appreciation. Now, I'd like to say this model that I'm sharing, this one you can take a look at, but I have changed the elements or the parties. This is what we call an ecosystem model. And so far, so good. So, yes, we're doing fine because outside of our business, our customers, the customers of our customers and our suppliers are all doing fine. We're okay. Then we take a look at the bigger picture, which, and probably many of you have never taken this seriously, the third level. What is this third level? The government, the laws of the government. And then if you have a lot of offices in different provinces, the regional, the LGUs. And then you've got competition. That's why when people start saying, who's our competitor? You should not only ask, who's our competitor? For me, more important, who is our competitor in every province. If you were in Philippines, if you were a player in the regional arena, who is our competitors in Philippines, who is our competitors in Malaysia. And that's how I call that. This is another terminology I will share, being pragmatic. Okay, so my good friends, sana po wala pang nagno-nosebleed. Okay, but we are not here to really make it difficult. We're here to introduce to many the more appropriate terminologies. Okay, so pragmatic, ibig sabihin nun, huwag mong ilahat. Okay, so and then of course we have advancement in technology, etc. And then you've got some of us as we're growing, we've got new investors coming into the business. So again, as I'd like to emphasize, when each of these parties know what to do, they blend in, and then again, they work to support your business. Okay, so what you have here, my good friends, is called an ecosystem in harmony. An ecosystem in harmony. But please remember, very critical here. Your business structure cannot survive if you do not understand what goes on with the different parties in the next level. The next level is what I call the enterprise level, and the next level is what I would call your economic influencers level. Okay, so parang solar system yan. Di ba? Iba't iba ang rotation, pero alam mo na gumagalaw yan in harmony. But let me also make it very clear, analogy ito, when you say harmony, it does not mean to say all at the same time. My good friends, my analogy here is a watch. Relo, if you open the back of a watch, you see gears, small and big. And if you observe them, they all do not move in the same direction. Welcome to what is another terminology I will share, synchronization. Ang dami na pong nakalista, no? May exam tayo after this. Anyway, those are, and when I share this, I'm now more on the sharing, really, I'm not saying intellectual, but for people to really appreciate, teka, seryoso ito. There's really a lot of terminologies here that I suggest people also appreciate. Anyway, so that's what you have, a solar system in synchronization. Now, what happens? The last thing that anyone would like is a disruption. A disruption. And if I therefore take a look at it now, I'm going to my next slide. Okay. This is now where I'm coming from. First, the question is, most companies plan to hit their target. And I know many of you answered yes. This is now where I'm coming from. Are you planning to hit your target, or should you plan to understand the environment that will affect how you hit your targets? Think about that. Because I can put as many targets there, but if I do not understand how to plan in an environment where I will compete, okay, I leave you to the conclusion. Next question that I ask, most companies plan early to create a budget to get approved. With all due respect to the financial experts there, and I also do conduct financial literacy, a question I'd like to ask. You are given a target for 2020, for example, and you plan on what to do in September or October of 2019. My question is this: when you plan, aren't you supposed to be a bit more closer to the time when you will implement the plan? Because for me, a September or an October, and I'm talking here of calendar. I mean, some businesses are on calendar mode, okay? And in your calendar mode, it means to say the start of my year is January. So I asked this question. You're planning for January next year, pero nagfo-forecast na kayo, nagpa-plan na kayo September, October of this year for next year. Bakit? And the answer is para maaprubahan ng budget. Again, please think about it. I am a disruptor here now. When people ask me, Mr. De Vera, Prof, can you facilitate our planning session? I said, well, are you calendar year? Yes, sir. Okay, let's plan in November. Sir, bakit? Ang lapit na yan. At least pag nagplano tayo ng November, I can already provide you more relevant environmental information. Something to think about, my good friends. Something to think about. So, this is, na ano ba nauuna? The plan? Ano ba ang value? Is it the plan or maaprubahan ng budget? I leave it up to you to answer, my good friends. I leave it up to you. Third, most companies rely on data and statistics. Well and good. But in a situation that is a pandemic that we have never had before, this is my question now. What data are we going to look at? Because data is about over the last 12 months, right? Data is about over the last 2 years. So, again, mind setting, I am challenging, and I also get to be challenged by this. Ano data titingnan mo? Anong analytics? Nag-unfold pa ito eh. Okay? When did it hit us? It hit us globally. It hit in China. It hit them in January officially. Okay. For other countries, it hit them in March. What data are we going to talk about moving forward? Okay. Think about it. Then most companies plan on the increment, not the totality. But then I'm going to ask this question. Are we going to go back to normal? I've been hearing a lot about the new normal. So if it's the new normal, it might not be logical to just plan on increments moving forward. Marami pong magbabago at maraming nagbabago. And this is also something very important. Those who plan are not those who implement. And for me now, this is so critical. My good friends, I'm hearing a lot of companies now, and with all due respect, Ricky, I'm having a web conference with my management team, and some people are, I'm having my web conference with my executive team. Okay, my question now is this one. So when are you going to put the rest of the team, the rest of the organization into the loop? Kasi I hope you don't mind, with all due respect again, I understand the executives and the management should take the lead. But then, ladies and gentlemen, implementation is not going to be the same. Okay, so the solar system synchronization, what happens then? Thing that we have not really expected. The impact of a COVID-19. And I'd like to share this. As an unorthodox advisor, consultant, unorthodox means to say, I look beyond what is obvious. COVID-19, it just so happened it's a COVID-19. But it's, when you really think about it, it's about something we have never expected before, a disruption. Because some of you might say, a COVID-19 won't happen anymore after this. Okay, fine, but I want to tell you this. But a disruption will continue to happen. So, however, because our discussion is COVID-19 now, I'm using COVID-19. So let me share this. Being an orthodox advisor and consultant and mentor as well, as early as first quarter of last year, 2019, I was already talking to a lot of audiences about a new norm called VUCA. Okay. And when I was being invited by a number of companies and associations as well, as they were going for their planning for 2020, I shared with them that, and I have tapes of this one because, and I have documents of this during the session where we do before we do any strategic planning. I say let's first assess what the environment is all about. I was already sharing. I cannot predict, but I was already, if I were to call it, for knowledge. That's another terminology. I was telling them, for knowledge tells me we will have a disruption. And I remember many of my audiences, bakit? Paano? Okay. But I'm happy to note that a number of them who took it seriously, as early as January, we were already doing disruption management sessions. Anyway, let me go back again. So, what happened? In your solar system of good synchronization comes a disruption, volatility, where things change rapidly, uncertainty, where situations that are never heard of appears, and we do not have enough information. And then complexity, where when we make one simple decision, it's not anymore simple because it can affect succeeding decisions. And then ambiguity. There are so many ways to take a look at the situation. And, this is what we now call, and people are now taking more serious look into this, the VUCA environment. If there is what is called a new normal in running business, there is a new normal in looking at the environment. And actually, I have also created more inputs towards VUCA and VUCA competencies. And for those of you who would like to catch just a little appreciation, on May 4, also with Ariva, I'll be talking more about VUCA. For the meantime, I'm using VUCA now as the disruptor. So I'm putting that in now. Not disrupt. The environment disrupts. And for me, this is very important. Also, when an environment is disruptive, where you have the VUCA all coming in at the same time, ang tawag ko po doon, perfect storm. Wala ka nang tinitingnan eh. Lahat ng tinitingnan mo may tama. Everywhere you look at it, it's hitting, it's hitting, it's hitting. You take a look at all countries now. Each of them have their own way of looking at things. So you're trying to think who's finding a solution. Everybody. And if I bring it down now to the level of any country, and I go back again to your core business now, which you are trying to protect, your departments, okay, your teams, we are all protecting them, now is being influenced by something that is not dynamic anymore, something that is disruptive again. Okay, because the environment is disruptive, so your suppliers are running out of supplies, your customers are thinking, ayoko mo nang umorder. This is even one thing that is interesting. And I shared this already. I also conduct sessions about, babayaran ka pa ba? Receivables mo. So even your customer. So, and then we take a look at our local government. We take a look at our government. Some of us are saying, how come the government doesn't know what to do? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask this question. No government in any country has ever been in a perfect storm. And that is what is happening right now. So the impact of this is actually now created what I called, and it's not at the end of the story, it is still unfolding. I appreciated it because yesterday I was listening to Howell's sharing, and I really appreciated that selfless leadership. That's very important. Kasi sa akin din, I'd like to put it, my good friends, what's going to be the new normal? The new normal is going to be what they call the modified. And you know what is so interesting thing about the modified quarantine? The implementation is still going to be on May 1. So it's still unfolding. And as I'm speaking right now, all our government agencies and local community leaders are still figuring out how it's going to happen. Okay, so I'll put it this way. Huwag mo nang problemahin yung gagawin nila. Okay, because our role is to be able to manage what they will give us. That's the way I like to look at it. Unless I am promoted to become a leader in terms of political, I'd rather put focus. Okay, so where does this lead us now into, my good friends? A global environmental disruption that is unprecedented. That is unprecedented. And because of this, okay, what it has been, the way I sense it, what has been the impact now of the COVID-19 and all other disruptions that will happen moving forward? First, it will disrupt whatever plans you have set for 2020. Whatever programs, whatever strategies, it will disrupt it. So for a realization, I'm not saying you should throw your plans. I'm saying we should be realistic. It will disrupt. Number two, the way I also see it, it will challenge the strategies that has been agreed upon. Okay. So strategies, are we going to therefore innovate? Are we going to expand our operations? It will challenge those strategies, okay, particularly how we're going to do things. Likewise, okay, it will also become a realization, and this I would like to share to the listeners, to the viewers as well. Again, coming from my end as an unorthodox consultant advisor, I personally would like to share this. Change does not start in an organization. Because if things are working, keep to it. But what is happening really is change starts in the environment. And that is so critical. And that's why when I now am invited to also do economic and business briefings, I always now say, pwede ba isasama ko environmental briefing as well? Because that has an impact to the total picture. So a realization that change does not come from within, but it comes from the environment. And I'm already sharing this, my good friends, because I'll tell you one thing that I sense. When we move on to the new normal, there will be a reality check. You might not be able to bring in the boat, all your people. You might not like what I am saying, but I also share this to the people, to the employees. Are you ready for something like that? You might not be in the boat. But remember, it's not because of the business. It's because of the environment. And this is also something that I find now very challenging. I've been supporting and providing advice and guidance to a number of companies as well on PMS. For those of you who are not familiar with the terminology, performance management system and structures. You know, where you start identifying and measuring productivity, etc., and then you give them the KRAs and KPIs. I'd like to be as candid as possible from a perspective of unorthodox thinking. What KRAs will now matter moving forward? Here is what areas. Can you still say, we will retain the measures, we will retain the productivity level in the next 6 months? You answered that. Mine is to make you think about it. So it creates now for me a challenge on how do I now bring back PMS into the picture, because PMS is supposed to put in a structure, a system on productivity. And where am I coming from? Because my friends, pre-COVID, your business was doing well. You know what to do. Things are organized. They are systematic. You even have, you know already who's going to retire, etc. In the present COVID-19, I was talking to some friends of mine in the health profession, and I was trying to relate it. And I find this terminology, muscle atrophy. What is that? Try to think about this. You planned so well for a bright 2020 business, for your department, for your team. So you've got your resources ready. Then suddenly, lockdown. So what has happened, if you try to connect now, the adrenaline of the people, ready na kami. Cannot. Lockdown. Our resources, we've already ordered this new equipment. Padating na dito. Lockdown. So what happens suddenly is that for me, it's called atrophy. It's when the muscles now are ready, but they're wasting. Why? Because the mobility of people, they think, they act, hindi pwede. And in some communities, they're so tight that you cannot even go out, so everything is now regulated. And that's what I sense. Again, I'm using the word sense. What is happening to many companies, many businesses, many teams right now, there is atrophy. We got to be aware of this, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what is so interesting is if we do not address this atrophy by the time that you are headed or we are headed for the post COVID-19, that's a question mark now. What's going to happen? Okay. And that for me is so critical. Okay. You're ready if things were okay, present, there is atrophy. Have you ever thought about it? My mind is thinking, but I am not behaving accordingly. That's very challenging. Okay. And for me, the ones who's doing all these conferences are my bosses. So what do? I just stay put. When you say to somebody stay put, atrophy starts already. Ano gagawin ko? Okay. And that's why there's a big question mark here. Leading now to this challenge. Where do we go from here? Okay. The answer, my good friends, let us plan. Sure, why not? And you can always take a look at the internet. There are so many ideas in terms of planning. Where are we now? Situational analysis. Where are we going? How do we get there? And how do we know that we are there? There are so many models that is available out there. And I appreciate that. If you can, please use those models. But a model also that I've been hearing that companies are more comfortable. I use the word comfortable because this is one of the earlier models that has been developed in business. It is the SWOT analysis, where we take a look at our strengths, we take a look at our weaknesses, we take a look at our opportunities, and we take a look at our threats. Okay? And if we're able to do that, okay, then we are able to identify really who we are. And I have, as a academician, as a professor, as a lecturer, this is for me, an essential business model. But it might not be the appropriate one. There's a difference between the two. For me, an essential means to say, you got to know this. You got to know SWOT analysis. That is very important. But my question and a quick poll also is, in many companies, they do their strengths and their weaknesses, and they're able to identify their weaknesses. My question now to all our listeners and viewers, and if Howell can also help me here, honestly, once your company has identified the weaknesses, honestly, how many of you out there you actually take action to address those weaknesses? So can we probably hear it maybe from the chat what company you are in? You know, yes or no. Yes means to say once we have identified the weaknesses, we really take it seriously and we address that. Or yeah, we have identified the weaknesses, but it's always been the same weakness every year. So is it yes, we have identified it and we take action, or no, we have identified it but we don't really take it seriously? So no means to say we have identified the weaknesses but we don't really take it seriously. So Howell, can you help me here?
Yes, we have no, sometimes, yes, yes, no, yes, no, 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 yes, yes, but limited by cost involved, yes, no, but most of the time, no, not all the time, yes. Yes, yes, no, no. So perhaps it's a 50% no,
And
and the
fifth,
others are sometimes, not all the time, not always.
okay. By the way, this is a, I'd like to put a disclaimer. Howell and me will not mention what company you belong to. So this is
Mm.
data privacy.
Mm.
But the reason why I was asking for that quick call, my good friends, is also this:
Mm.
when you do your strengths and weaknesses, think about it. It was based on who we are, who we are. Okay, and that's why strengths and weaknesses, or if you do it in a yearly basis, halos yan na yun eh. Di ba? It's very seldom it changes. But I'm gonna ask you this. In a disruptive environment such as the COVID-19, what really are your strengths? What really are your weaknesses? The answers is gonna be different. And the reason for that is because the way I see it from a consultant, advisor, and mentor mindset, strengths and weaknesses is who I am based on what I've been through. But if it's a situation I've never been through, so what's my strength there? Okay, like how many of our people can we say? How many of our people are good for volatility? I'm not sure you've ever asked that kind of a question. Okay, so again, the SWOT is important. It is a grounding on planning, and I'm emphasizing this. I will now be sharing with you a process where I put together several models, but SWOT as a foundation. That's important. But I felt this is more appropriate, and this is a model I have been using over the last several years, even without the COVID 19, just in preparation for any eventuality. Okay. Another thing also I'd like to share to everyone is this one. When we take a look sometimes on strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, it takes so long for us to implement things. Okay, because I'll put it that SWOT analysis is time bound. Like this is what we're gonna do next year. But ladies and gentlemen, I think all of us is now what are we going to do now, not next year? What are we going to do now, and what are we going to do moving forward? Uh, and that is where I'd like to share that when you take a look at the SWOT, therefore it is for me a foundation, but we got to be much more, if I were to call it, proactive. Okay, so moving from SWOT as a foundation, when we start taking a look at now on the future, okay, because this is the one that's very important now. Okay, I'd like us to have a appreciation of what is called scenarios. Okay. And scenarios would mean to say it challenges you now to take a look on what is still out there that might be happening or has not yet happened. That's called scenario development process. And by putting this together, plus my experience being a consultant advisor in a number of companies in Philippines and in the Asian region as well, uh, and taking a look at what is happening, I would like to now share an alignment paradigm model. I put it side by side with a conventional planning. In the conventional planning, the question is, where are we now? In an alignment paradigm model, mine is, and this is, I call it mine because I've crafted this, I'm using this now, and talked to a number of consultants as well, and something that is palatable, you need to say understood, business perspective. And then the question of where are we going, I look at it from a corporate perspective. Then the question of, and how are we going to get there? I'm now introducing what is called organizational perspective. And how will we know we have arrived there? I call this enterprise perspective. Now, I'd like to share. The one on the left, it's in the internet. The one on the right, that's what I have crafted. And I'd now like to talk a little bit more about this. Perspectives. So hold on to your horses, my good friends. This is so important now. Ang pag sinabi pong perspective, hindi perception perspective. Pag perception po, what do you see? Perception. Pag perspective, saan ka nang gagaling? Where are you coming from? And if you therefore take a look at this is not easy as a model because I am now suggesting, advising, because I've used this for a number of companies, there has to be different perspective moving forward. So let me now bring that in. There is, of course, a full-blown, we do this, we guide, we do consulting sessions, but for an appreciation of many out there, this is something I'd like you to have an open mind with. And I hope you don't mind. I'm putting my thumb mark down there because this is a model that I've crafted. And we've used it. It has made success stories, and we'd like to share this. Okay. Sana if this was the 10 million, if you find a solution to the virus, but well, anyway, this is for the business. Okay, I call it business sustainability, an alignment paradigm. And I'm saying here po that look at it from an continuously assessment model. Ano yung unang tanong? You wanna jumpstart, you wanna do something moving forward. Okay. So first thing is business awareness. What does that mean? As a business, what are your key indicators? And if I were to answer that, financials, your financial statements. I'm gonna say, okay, I want to take a look at my income statement. I want to take a look at my balance sheet. Fine, that's your business awareness. Okay? And as a business person, okay, you are definitely going to be conscious about that one. My profitability margin, my revenue, etc. So that's now where you put in your business cap. Okay. Of course, we have guidelines there if this was a full-blown advisory, but just to give you an appreciation, business awareness. But that's not enough because it's about being aware of this is what I was setting and this is so far what we're getting in the first quarter. Remember, my good friends, you have targets for the full year, but you break it down on a quarterly and a monthly basis. Tama, right? That's correct. You just don't look at a 1 year. You take a look at a semestral, a quarterly, and a monthly. And there are even others who looks at it on a weekly and a daily. So you've got some, awareness already to take a look. January, what happened there? February, what happened there? Oops. And we entered March, particularly mid-March. How are we so far? That's business awareness model. And that one I would understand would be with the management team. That's with the executive. Fine. Then goes the next, I call it the next stage that this we should be looking at, whether you're a team, a department, a section, a company, a conglomerate. Organizational analysis. This, if you notice, the terminology I use is not business, organization. When we talk about organizational analysis, this is now where we start talking about what's our processes, what's our service process, what's our production process. I hope you can connect with me, audience. Okay. But you don't only take a look at processes. You're gonna also take a look at what's our procedures. How do we make sure that that process actually can be implemented? What were our procedures? And I feel that I sense that most of you will agree with me. Your processes and your procedures today versus before the pandemic and moving forward, it's not going to be the same unless your business has always been on online. Then you also, and this is something that many have a hard time. Right now, I'm doing online coaching and advisory to a number of businesses. What are we doing? I say, we also got to take a look at your policies. When you talk about a process was based on a policy. And we gotta talk about that because this is organization now, not just the business. Okay, so when we talk of organizational analysis, bring it down to the processes and then the policy that created the processes and then the procedures that is supposed to support those processes. Now, that's not going to be easy, of course, because unless you understand, and I guess that's the framework. That's why I appreciate being a business process consultant advisor. I honestly, I started my first love was marketing, but then I realized marketing cannot work if there is no appreciation of finance, production. I think all the other consultants, the business consultants, particularly, will understand where I'm coming from. So it's a juggling act, and that's not easy. And that's not easy. And the interesting thing about organizational analysis is if you do this on your own as as a as a company, you are going to miss out on a lot of insights. Because it's the way we've done this now with some companies, there's a tendency to defend. Hindi, sir, ito na lang kasi mas, So we come in there because we break the ice. Hold on. I mean, this is organizational analysis. You got to have somebody there who looks at it outside in, not inside out. That's organizational analysis. And believe me, when I tell you, because I've conducted quite a number of sessions as well, and I've met over the last 20 years of my consulting and 30 years of doing training, many companies have processes but no policies. They have procedures but no processes. I mean, hello. They have policies, but there's no processes. So if you try to take a look at it, that in itself, I mean, and that's why I keep on sharing this also to organization. Why don't we take stock and be honest of what we are missing? That's organizational analysis. And there you need the people from outside who can really challenge you your organization. Okay. Then we move towards, okay, relationship analytics. This is my third stage in this roadmap. Now, analytics, if you understand its definition, is it's about data. Okay, it's about putting things together. It's about statistics. I appreciate that, okay, and I do that actually. I appreciate statistics. That's why when I also now do project management sessions, I ask my clients, okay, that's our project management program or roadmap. What is our margin of error? What is our confidence level? Those are statistics. But then I'm going to ask this, and I go back. I'm not using here data analytics as of the moment. Why? Because as I shared earlier, when did the pandemic hit? Depending on the country, a month ago, 2 months ago. How much data do you have about that? Not a lot. And that's why I'm using the word relationship analytics. Why relationship? You know, the sad part, my good friends, and I've been hearing this in many. We're very much concerned about our customers. No question about that. But then I ask this, how about your suppliers? How about your channel partners? I haven't heard so much about how we can work better with our channel partners, how we can work better with our agencies. I'm not hearing that. What I'm hearing, and I appreciate it, is how we can save our customer. Fine, there's been a lot of that already. But the way I see it, relationship includes channel partners. Yung iba nga, we have some channel partners now. Sige, sir, you can delay paying me. I just want to make sure that I can support you. That's a relationship for me. And that's why I'm also introducing now relationship analytics for me would probably make more sense. I'm not saying we discard data or statistics. No, that's still important. But then the relationship analytics, and this is where, and I'd like to take it from uh, a sister of mine, and I'd like to say hi to her. She is Maria Fatima de Vera Francisco, or Fama for short. For those of you who have been following my FB and my post, you probably have know her. Fama is now the global uh, CEO of Procter and Gamble Global, and more than 135 countries reports to her. She's Filipina. She is a global head CEO for the business, for 1/5 of the total business of Procter and Gamble worldwide. And we keep on sharing ideas. And Fama was mentioning to me, and I'd like to just share this to everybody as well. When we talk about relationships, it cannot be data. It's got to be insighting. Data is the result of what you have seen. It's the insight. And that one I really appreciate because I have also embraced that concept of inciting. And inciting means to say, put yourself into the shoe. Don't just ask. Don't just gather data. So that's why I talk to relationship analytics. And I feel that one we're missing out a lot. And I'd like to say hi to Fama and the family as well. And thank you very much for also sharing insights. Okay. Then I move on to the next stage, evaluation. Why? You take a look at a lot of studies today. You will not have a study that concluded how to address COVID-19. there's no closure yet. Every country has different variations of how they will ease their lockdown. So where am I coming from? We cannot make a conclusion. We need to spend more time now, and calibrate our mindset in terms of appreciating evaluation. And for me, there are two kinds of evaluation that we guide uh, companies, leaders, even sales team leaders, etc. Okay, there's the formative evaluation and there is the summative evaluation. When you say it's formative, it means to say, okay, this is how we evaluate. Let's therefore see how it works. While summative is, we have seen how it works. This is how now we would like to further make it better. So you decide what kind of evaluation is needed here. Okay, so there's formative and summative. Again, and it's not simple because here you gotta have a team do it. Not hindi ikaw lang. Because this is what I find interesting also. There are some that they evaluate on a one-person basis or a two-person basis. That's not for me evaluation. That's singular evaluation. I'm better off with a holistic evaluation. I'm moving now to my next one. Then decisions have to be made. But my good friends, those who are viewing this, if you notice, I have a new terminology. Corporate decisions. Not relationship decisions, not organizational decisions, not business decisions. Corporate decisions. I'll tell you why. With all due respect, okay, the way I see it, if it is business, most businesses are for profit. So if they do a business decision, cut this, cut that, cut this, cut that. But I sense at this point in time, in a disruptive environment, I'd rather move out my business cap and put in my corporate cap first. Why? A corporate decision for me is not about how much do we make in a year. It is not about what is our profitability. A corporate decision to me is this. Let us ask ourselves the question, can we still see our vision as a company to happen? Is that or is this still our mission as an entity? The vision, the mission, for me, that's not business issues. Those are corporate, high-end. Okay? Your, as people would say, purpose. What are we here for? Okay? Now, if I put my business cap, how much should I make? And that's why corporate is very critical for me here. And interesting as well that in a number of companies, we have now also introduced what's your manifesto. And there are also many. I know what's a manifesto. I'll tell. I'm sharing this. A manifesto, if it is understood by an organization, sinks deep to the heart of the people. The corporate is more cerebral. The manifesto is more emotional. And that's why we have helped and guided organizations as well in terms of let's add a manifesto. Let's put a manifesto. And then let us revisit your vision and mission. Is still going to be the same? Remember, we're talking now of the future. So that's corporate decisions. I hope you can follow, my good friends, where I'm coming from. Again, I am sharing something that is already a roadmap. And it leads us now into, for me, the last stage. And that last stage, enterprise governance. My good friends, it's like you're taking an MBA under Professor Vera here. But I love sharing to people enterprise governance. Okay, so the question that you probably are asking, governance, what is that? Governance is what is missing in many decisions. Decisions are made, but they cannot be implemented. There's difficulty. And so, therefore, for me, governance is important because governance is about the management of the decisions. But then I'm not using the word business, I'm using the terminology enterprise. And for me, when you use the word enterprise, again, my good friends, it's a different cap. I have to put in the cap of an entrepreneur. So if you take a look at it, I did not put on the cap of an entrepreneur in the earlier stages. I have different caps or hats that I put in depending on what stage I am. And that's why when we share this on a more, in-depth advising or mentoring to companies or business consulting, we tell them, okay, for every session, we will have a different paradigm. And that's what I call, we also introduce the discipline of divergent thinking. With what is happening today, you cannot think as one. That is my take. There has to be divergence in the way we think and in the caps that we put in. So, moving forward, therefore, my good friends, and as we put in, what is therefore important is an appreciation that if we would like to, and this is why we have this sharing, there is a roadmap. That this roadmap, I formulated it. We have conducted it to a number of organizations as well, and we're happy with the results we're getting right now. It's not easy. It's not simple because you have to put in that divergence in thinking. Now, I'd like to also emphasize this. As you move forward, my good friends, the single bottom line of making money will probably have to be put on the side for the meantime. I'd rather not make money at the meantime. I'd rather sustain the business. Okay, the profit can come as long as I'm able to sustain so far, fine. But then we'd like to share this as well, and this is where it comes into that enterprise governance. You between the corporate decision and enterprise governance, what I call triple bottom line. We have to now take a look at social, economic, and environment. Okay, this is something that many are not comfortable with, but again, as I'd like to share, this is something that we have to open our mind to, and if we're able to put in those three, then it gives you your revenue protection, your revenue growth, and your revenue sustainability. So, as a recap to my sharing, again, this is an appreciation session. We do this more in depth on an advisory, consulting, or mentoring. But I hope that people out there get to sense now that there is a roadmap that we can take a look at. And just one thing I'd also like to share here as I close. Ladies and gentlemen, question moving forward, therefore, is what do we do now? One, for me, consider free knowledge. There's so much of like this one. This is a webinar, and for me, this is knowledge. Consider it. Take and relate to as much free knowledge that you want. But one thing you have to remember, uh, you might get lost with so much webinars already. You have to be also selective. Okay? Uh, but there's a lot, and I call it actually knowledge. Okay, uh, I would not really like to call it learning yet, because for me, knowledge is what you hear. Learning is when you apply it. So there's a lot of free knowledge right now. But I always tell, when my friends also ask me, or my consultants or my clients would ask me, or my students would ask me, Prof, there's so many, which one? I always tell them, number one, what do you really need? Number two, what's the credential of the person speaking? Number three, is that topic really going to be of value to you? Okay. Then you want to move on. Consider consulting, or consider people who can provide you business consulting. And for me, that's critical, because when you talk of business consulting, it means to say, when you say free knowledge, it would be just you getting knowledge. When you say business, it cannot just be you. It's you, your boss, your supervisor. There's more people there involved. And that's why a consultant comes in now, a business consultant comes in. They help and they assist you, they guide you, but there will be adjustments. You cannot just simply keep on clicking. There has to be adjustments. Then if you want to even move forward, ladies and gentlemen, advisors. Advisors are people who are more specific in terms of, so let's see how unique you are, and let's see what works for you. And that's where we call it, there is that transformation that already happens. And that's where you do adapt. Remember, there's a difference between adjust and adapt. If you ask me as a consultant, I can give you, like if you have an issue, I can give you 10 different ways of doing it. But if you ask me and you say, but Ricky, I want the advisory cap, then I'll tell you, knowing who you are, out of the five, these are the two that will work for you. That's different. That is so different. That's why it's not easy to also be an advisor, because we go for the nitty gritty. And we also have, there are companies who now say, okay, I've had it. I'm not ready for this. I want to turn this over to the next generation of executives. I want to turn it over to my son. I want to turn it over to the young Turks. And that's where we say, okay, then maybe what they need is mentorship. Because mentorship means to say, it's now a paradigm. It's transcending already. It's a lot higher. It's transcending, and it's acclimatizing the management team and the executives on that level. So these are things that I'd also like to share to everyone out there, so that you can decide. For people in your organization, free knowledge, everybody, let's go for that one. Fine. But if we want to start talking about, I want to move my business now, I want to move my team now, that's where you probably need to ask, okay, maybe we can talk to, let's look at it from a consultancy paradigm already. Let's talk to our team leaders already there. Then if it's about, okay, no, but we want to really get so serious now. Okay, let's get our department heads together. Let's do between consulting and advisory. And if it's about, no, I want to turn this over to the new Turks, maybe we can take a look at the mentorship as well. Okay, so my my good friends, I know I probably have eaten up a lot of your time, but I'm definitely eager to answer clarifications and questions as well, because this is not just for us. This is for everybody else, and I feel that is very important moving forward. Clarity. Okay, so Howell, I'll turn it over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Sir Ricky de Vera. Big hand for Sir Ricky, everyone. Well, 1 hour and 20 minutes of information, of insight, of your experience. Imagine distilling all your life's experiences and then giving it to us, pouring it generously to us for the past hour and 20 minutes. We are so blessed. Thank you for your generosity, Sir Ricky. Now, we'll give you 2 minutes to pause for a break. But in the meantime, we'd like to greet happy birthday, Joshua Generoso. Happy birthday! birthday. Ayan. And, and so we're being flooded with thank yous and appreciation right now. Now, for all of you who have questions for Sir Ricky, kindly type your questions not at the chat box, but at the Q&A box. We will appreciate
Yes,
that a lot.
talaga. Yan, yes.
And then when we
Sabi
return,
kasi ni Iris, huwag mo
after
daw
2 minutes
i-check.
of our water break, coffee break, whatever break you want
I'll just
to have
answer
in the
that question. You should
next
not
two
be affected.
minutes, we'll be right back to answer the questions you'll be typing in at the Q&A box sa Facebook Live. Pwede rin yan. Again, thank you so much. Don't go away. We'll be right back for another exciting, if not even more exciting part of the program, which is we will hear from Sir Ricky De Vera the answers to your questions. Thank you so much. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We promise.